My dear sons, I wanted to leave a memory for you, letting you know how much I love you, how important you are in my life, and just to share some thoughts with you. You are obviously the best part of my life, and I just have a little message that I want to share with you, and my friend Dan here is helping me out with this, so I'm just gonna leave you with whatever thoughts and all my love. So kind of here we go. I just wanted to leave a little memory with you. My life started in a small town in northern Michigan, very rural. My father was a hard worker, worked 2 jobs to help support us, and we were an affectionate family. My parents were loving. We went to church every Sunday, sang in the choir, and prayed every night. Dad played the ukulele, Mom played the piano, and we all harmonized after dinner most nights. Now, we didn't have television in those days, so we had to make our own entertainment, believe it or not. And both my parents loved to dance, and as a matter of fact, they were excellent dancers. Dad was a dance instructor when he was young, and he was also a boxer, so I guess you could say he was in touch with both his feminine and his masculine side. He loved to laugh. He loved kids. He had a great sense of humor. He was a joy to live with. Mom was a sharpshooter. Her dad took her hunting when she was very young, and she was an interesting lady. She loved to hunt. She was very modern. She was very much ahead of her time. And she was a joy also. So I have very good memories of growing up, and I just wanted, you never had a chance to meet your grandparents, so I just wanted to share a little of them with you.
Your mom sounds like she was kind of a little bit of a powerhouse. Did she have trouble with men being a sharpshooter?
No, actually she didn't. She was very tiny. She was very petite. She was 5 feet tall, weighed about 100 pounds, and so she was very feminine looking. And she was a fearless person. She wasn't afraid to try things and do things. So she was not your basic traditional woman. She had ideas of her own. So she was very interesting. Yeah. So we had a good family life. I have good memories of both my mother and father, and I feel sad the boys didn't get a chance to experience them also, because they were very, very sweet. I always say we had a loving, dysfunctional family, but basically we did have a loving family. So that's the part I want to. That's a part that I want to, and I guess I want them to know that I felt loved in that family by both my father and mother. My dad loved Christmas. He always made it so special for all of us. He was a kid at heart, and he really loved Christmas. So what he would do, June and Beth, my sisters, were about 14 years old, and he wanted them to still believe in Santa Claus, and they were beginning to, doubt at 14, let's face it. So Dad would always, we'd put out cookies and milk, and then we'd go to bed, right? So Dad was downstairs, and we could hear bells in the background, and Dad saying, "Oh, Santa's here. You better be good. You better be going to sleep. He's eating the cookies. He's drinking the milk." And we went, "Oh, right, Dad. We know you're down there ringing those bells." And he went, "No, this is Santa." And we said, "Okay, Dad, you come upstairs, and we'll see if the bells keep ringing." And he said, "Okay." So we said, "You'll see." So he came upstairs, and sure enough, he was talking to us upstairs, and the bells were still ringing downstairs. So what he had done, he tied the bells to the table on a string. He tied the string to his toe, and every time he'd move his foot, the bells would ring. So he had us for another year, but he made life interesting at Christmas. He was wonderful. He made that a joy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our neighbors. Our neighbors had rabbits, pet rabbits, and they decided to get rid of the rabbits. Well, of course, they were going to kill them, and they didn't want to just waste them. They wanted somebody to eat them, and because that was very natural in those days for you to eat rabbit. But they knew their kids weren't going to eat them because they were pet rabbits. So they gave them to Dad. And we sat down to dinner, and we thought that the shape of what we were eating was a little strange, and Dad said, it's chicken. We said, Dad, this is kind of funny looking chicken, and he said, no, this is chicken. So we ate the chicken, and then afterwards, a couple days later, he told us we ate the pet rabbits, so we weren't real thrilled with him. But onward with neighbors. Our neighbors weren't always playing with the proverbial full deck. Our neighbor would wash his clothes, and then he would take them out of the washer all soapy, hang them on the line, and his idea of rinsing was turning the hose on the clothes. And that was the rinse. So we had fun. We had great neighbors. We did trips to see my grandmother. My grandmother lived in another part of Michigan, which is probably, quite a few hours drive, I think, and Dad only drove Jeeps, so we all had to pile in this Jeep with tons of luggage, and we all got car sick. All three of us girls got car sick, so we were good for 5 miles out of town, and the first one had to throw up. And then this happened the whole way. Invariably, Mom and Dad got lost. June and Beth and I have no sense of directions, as we all know, so we can honestly say we got this from Mom and Dad. But we had a good time. We had good times together.
Where'd you go to school? What was the name of your first school?
Yeah, it was a small grade school. It was called Washington, and it didn't have a lot of kids. It was, pretty small. But
did you have a favorite teacher or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. My 7th grade teacher, my English teacher, was probably my favorite teacher.
What made her favorite for you?
She taught me well. She taught me things that I'm, still stick with me and have helped me in life. So I guess that's pretty much what stuck.
And then you went to high school where?
Calumet High School.
What did your dad do for a living?
My father was a machinist by day, and he did plumbing at night just to supplement our income.
Okay.
So he
worked
was
a lot of hours.
Yeah, he worked a lot of hours. He was a good provider. He loved children. Took us everywhere with him. He wanted us to be with him, and he had a great sense of humor. He made life fun for us. We enjoyed.
Did your mom work outside the house?
No, not until we were older. As we got older, then she worked outside the house as a sales clerk, but. She was home with us. She was a homemaker. Things in those days were much tougher, much more primitive, I think, than they are nowadays. We had chickens. Mom went out and killed a chicken, and oh yeah, Mom went out and killed the chicken, and she plucked the chicken. Have you ever plucked a chicken?
Yeah.
This is an experience, believe me. And we had roast chicken for dinner, but they did it from scratch in those days. Mom was really tough. She was. I always think of my mom as being like a little Indian. She had cancer. When I was about 9 years old, she had she had breast cancer, and she had to have a total mastectomy, and that was a real rough time, I think, probably for all of us. And then 8 years later, when I was 16 in that realm, it came back as bone cancer. At the time they didn't know that, and she wore a cast for about a year from the top of her breast to about almost to the thigh, and she dealt with that, and then they realized she had bone cancer, and so she only had a couple months to live. And she went hunting about a month before she died, and she it was very foggy. It was very cold. It was very foggy when she went deer hunting, and she didn't come out. So we called the police, and it was so foggy they couldn't go in to look for her. And she ended up walking out to a farmhouse in the morning, and she was in the woods all night by herself. She walked out to a farmhouse, called, and my sister June and her husband picked her up. And Mom said that she faced death while she was in the woods all night, and she felt serene about it, and it was really beautiful. Mom was at peace at that point, and in terms of dying, and I really just love her because she was so strong, and she was able to face her death, just looking it right in the eye and saying, I feel peaceful, I feel spiritual, it's all good with me, and she let us know that.
So when did you leave Michigan?
I left Michigan actually when I was 18. I worked a summer job in a tourist restaurant and saved enough money to go to Chicago. And for the first couple months, I stayed with an aunt. And then after that, I pretty much supported myself there. And I lived there for 4 years in in Chicago. And then I went to New York, and I lived there for a year.
What part of New York did you live in?
In New York City, in Manhattan. And that was a pretty interesting experience. I lived in Greenwich Village on the Lower East Side. Bathtub in the kitchen. So this was not upscale living, believe me, but that was enjoyable. I always wanted to see things. I wanted to travel, so I did experience that. And then I went to California. Actually, I went back to Michigan for a while and went to college. Went to a engineering college and then a business college, and then I went to California, and I met your dad, and boom, along you came.
And how did you guys meet?
I met David. He had a friend, well, my roommate. He was friends with my roommate actually, and he came over to take her to dinner one night, and the rest was, we bounced off each other, and the rest was history. And then he was taking me out to dinner. So that was all good. And
so you guys liked each other right away?
yeah, I think so. And we went together for about a year, I guess, and then we got married. And we lived in apartments, first of all. And
where was this again?
In California.
What part?
Northern California. Yeah, and so then we bought a little house in Berkeley, and that's basically where you two were raised, in our little house on Spalding Avenue, our little neighborhood there, and that was a good life. And Jamal, when he was born, was right out there. I swear, he just crawled right out of the crib from the start and said, I'm going to make a life for myself, and he did, and you did love her. And Jamal, you were so gorgeous. People would stop on the street and just say how physically attractive you were, and you certainly were. You were a handful. You were moving all the time. You had to follow behind you because wherever you went, it went into your mouth. So you were a handful, but we loved you. And Dow was more thoughtful. He was kind of sit there and scope it out before he jumped right in, and he had his own personality going there too.
Remember where they were born?
Yeah, they were born in Kaiser Hospital.
Both at the same hospital?
Uh-huh.
In Berkeley?
Yeah, that's right.
Huh.
No, actually Kaiser Hospital was in Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about their births?
Um,
Anything specific, that how you felt, or what was going on at the time, or?
Oh, birth was so thrilling. It was so thrilling. It just, I really loved being pregnant. I really, Jamal, your pregnancy was so easy for me. I just was so happy that I was pregnant with you, and you were very healthy. No problems with you. Dowd, a little problem with you. It seems like they thought you had a urine infection. I couldn't take you home. I had to wait for 2 days, and I cried on the way home because I couldn't bring you home. And it turned out it was a contaminated urine specimen, so there we were. But no, at least you were healthy. That's the main part.
And what kind of things can you remember about the boys growing up as little kids? They were happy.
They were happy with their neighborhood. They were happy with their life.
What did they do for
Berkeley
fun?
was cool.
What kind of
They
things
played
did
outdoors.
No,
They played outdoors, yeah. They were outdoors all day. It was a neighborhood that was full of kids their age, so they played in the street and they played football and they ran from house to house, and it was a neighborhood. You grew up in a neighborhood,
Now, these are
so
boys.
that was
What
special.
kind of trouble did they get into?
Well, Jamal was the doer. As I said, Dowd was more think it out. He kind of scoped it out. He didn't just jump in and get into trouble. Although he did call me at work one day and he said, "Mom, I was watching Tarzan on TV, and you know that plant you have hanging that kind of swings? Well, I swung on that plant, Mom, and it tore out the wall." I said, "Well, I couldn't have torn out the whole wall." And he said, "You'll see when you get home." Well, it did tear out the whole wall. So anyway, that was Dowd and Tarzan. Jamal was a little more intense. Jamal got up early one morning, and we had a bottle of champagne in the refrigerator. We'd had some friends over, I think, the night before, and Jamal actually drank a lot of that champagne.
How old was he?
He was, I don't think he was any more than 7. Yeah, he drank that bottle of champagne. He then proceeded to eat all of his vitamins, fluoride vitamins, may I add. He then proceeded to sprayed we had steps going down to the basement. He sprayed those with furniture polish. Don't ask me why he did that, but he thought that was a good idea. And then he proceeded to go down the street and paint. The neighbor had a greenhouse. However, he had brown paint on the porch, so he proceeded to paint the neighbor's house green, which the neighbor was not thrilled with at all, by the way. Little phone call on that one.
Now, all this stuff happened over a series of days. This didn't
No.
happen on the same day,
This happened within an hour. Yeah. It was a joy to get up to Jamal, to wake up to Jamal. We woke up to Jamal, believe me. So he was a lot of fun, and he was certainly a challenge. And as I say, after we repaired the wall, put the plant back up, that was all good. But we had fun. They were active. Yeah, they were boys. They were boys. And now you're men, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so absolutely proud of you both. And I'm not going to do a documentary that goes for 2 hours, so I just want to kind of wrap this to let you know that you are the joy of my life. You are absolutely, both of you, the joy of my life. I always love the time I spent with both of you individually. Jamal and I. Well, actually, Jamal and I and Dowd and I just watched tons of videos. I mean, we'd have our video marathons where we'd go practically all night. And I loved that. It was always good. And we always bonded, and we had fun and went to great restaurants. And, what did we do? You're always so sweet to me, and you took me to crazy places, stores I'm sure you didn't want to go to. But you were always very sweet about that. And I don't know, I just love talking to you and spending time with you. And you always shared your feelings with me. I always appreciated that. You were always honest with me. I always appreciated that. I think I was pretty honest with you, too. Was definitely get your feelings out household. The wedding was great. I really enjoyed the wedding. A chance to meet Tasha's family, who I thought all were super. And I'm glad I got to experience that. Jamal, you were so nervous having to stand up and make your speech at Dowd's wedding, and you really did it from your heart. I was so proud of you. It was just a very special moment. And I looked at you, Dowd, when you came over to ask me to dance, and you just looked me straight in the eye with that big smile on your face, and I just couldn't wait to dance with you. It was just that simple. It was very, very, very touching for me, very touching moment for me. And to see you together, you and Tasha, makes me happy you're together, by the way. I want to end this with a letter that I wrote about 15 or 20 years ago. I had an experience that led me to write some thoughts about my life ending, and through the years I've read this letter, and it works for me. I feel it every year I read it, and I think that's exactly what I want to say to you. And here it is. Dearest Jamal and Daoud, if you're reading this, I'm not around to give you a hug. So this is my hug. You're the best part of my life, the very best. I love you both, and I'm proud that I had sons as fine as you are. I know you are in grief, as my sisters are. Love each other, share with each other, your family, share your feelings. I was very blessed as a mother. You always let me know that you loved me, and I felt your love. And what else is there? I have no fear of death, absolutely none. Find your own spirituality. It's an important part of your life. I will always be with you. I love you.